All right, good morning. Welcome to Italy Symposium 2015. I'm very excited to have all of you here with us today. Thank you for traveling from so far away and for spending this day, which is, time is, really the most precious commodity in our lives. And so it means a lot that you're spending this day with us today. Well, if you are familiar with the Liferay community, with our ecosystem, you know that one of the most exciting things that's going on in 2015 is that we're preparing for Liferay 7. And I want to spend this morning to talk about Liferay 7. Oh, okay. Great. Oh, thank you, Eddie. I used to be so good at technology, and now I only do marketing, so now I can't even set up my own slides. We're very excited about Liferay 7, and that's going to be the main focus of my talk this morning. And in order to put it in context, I wanted to explain about how Liferay sees the world today, and especially in contrast with the time that we started the company. As you know, Liferay started in 2004 as a company, but really it has its roots as far back as 2000, 2001. Bryan Cheung, who is the chief software architect and founder of Liferay, he started writing portal software back in 2000 in response to the needs that he had in his church, but also he was seeing that many organizations didn't have access to affordable portal technology. You may or may not know that Bryan and I met at a .com company. This was a consulting company back in 2000, and we were one of hundreds of companies that went out of business in the first .com bubble and burst. So that was about 15 years ago, and this is what the internet looked like about 15 years ago. And of course, it's easy to laugh at Yahoo now and say, haha, it's so old-fashioned. Look, that was 1999. We're so much better than that. But I think it's actually much more significant than just the aesthetic appeal that we see in Yahoo. First of all, okay, obviously, this is not a very immersive experience. It's very informational. It's really a catalog of different websites. But the other thing about Yahoo in 1999 is that it really was about the systems. It was about the information. We were users, and we would come to yahoo.com. Regardless of who you were, you would see this. And regardless of what you've done on Yahoo before, you would see this. Now, the editors of Yahoo would, from time to time, update the links and say, okay, now these are more relevant than these. But really, it was you approaching the information, and the information saying to you, here we are. You let us know what you want to look at, and you can find it. But we really don't care as much about you. It's really about the information, right? There was a big bubble in 1999, if you remember, and this was when the internet first started. And there were a lot of good reasons for companies like Pets.com. You may remember Webvan. It was supposed to be online grocery deliveries. They had these enormous valuations as companies. And yet, when you actually look at how much commerce and activity was happening online at the time, it was very, very, very small. In this graph from Andreessen Horowitz, you can see that back in 1999, we were only doing about $25 billion worth of online activity. Now, fast forward 15 years later, 2014, we have a combination of e-commerce and online advertising that is over $350 billion, right? So we've seen nearly 10, 11, 12 times as much activity in 2014 as in 1999. And so what we realize is that those companies back then were not wrong, but they were just a little bit too early, right? And when you look at this in the wider context, let's just take the United States and the retail commerce activity in the US. All of that activity, that $350 billion, is just a very, very small sliver of the total retail activity. So now this orange is the 350 billion, and you can see that in the US we're doing over $4 trillion of commerce, right? And this is applicable to us, why? Because this is the potential of internet and digital technologies to completely change an industry. Now, this is true in the US, but it's also true here in Europe, here in Italy, where so many businesses are still very traditional. There's a huge opportunity for digital technology to make an impact. What do I mean when I talk about digital business? So e-commerce is a very obvious thing that we can look at, but there's much more. You see, sometimes we mistake digital business as being simply taking your existing business and putting it online. So this credit card form is a good example of that. Instead of collecting your information on paper, they're asking you to fill this out online, and then you hit submit, right? And what would make this just e-business? Well, behind this form, there's still a person that collects that information, makes sure that you entered all the information correctly, and then sends it over to the application processing department. If it's a digital business, they might be using different digital technologies to completely change the way they authorize your credit. So, for example, you might actually be physically at a store. They have all of your purchase transaction history, and they're at that moment, at the instant moment when you want to do that transaction, trying to figure out if you have worthy credit and you have the reliability of being able to pay for this item, but also that you're not somehow being a credit card fraud person, right? So all of these things would be fundamentally different from giving you a card with a preset limit that you can spend. Who are some of the pioneers of digital business? So let's take a look at high-tech and low-tech. Robotics is a company in the US. What they're doing is they're using drone technology, and they are changing the way that we do farming. So they have the ability to go over the area of a crop, figure out the health of the crop, and then take all of that information and data into a mapping and analytics service, and basically show you the areas of the crop that need more attention. So you can see that the areas in red need more fertilizer and more water. And the great thing for farmers is that they are now able to much more accurately focus their resources in the right places, so they're able to save time and have better crop yields. Something a little bit more fun is Disney. So Disney has really talked about their commitment to digital business transformation. And one of the things that they've done is they've used a digital wristband to transform their in-park experience. So a lot of times, especially in the Liferay ecosystem, we think about web-based technology and web-based experiences, but Disney's actually doing it for real-world or in-person experiences. And this digital wristband, what it does is it serves as your wallet, your hotel key. It helps you collect photos when you take photos throughout the park. And it does a little bit more that I want to show you. So one of the ways that they're using this digital wristband is to put a little bit of magic into their cruise experience. Let me show you this. So when you are wearing the wristband and you approach one of their paintings, you can see it actually come alive. So it's really subtle in many ways. I mean, it's not like this kind of digital, all these fireworks. It still looks like a painting, and this is what it looks like when it's not active. But it adds that sense of mystery and magic, and it's not their primary business model, and yet it adds so much to what they're doing for families. Okay. And here you can see it actually on the cruise ship and just the delight that it's bringing. Okay, and finally, when we look at, of course, all of the big digital businesses that we are familiar with, not all of them are using things like drones and magic wristbands, but they're probably using most of the common technologies that we're all familiar with, including mobile and internet. So this is kind of the big opportunity, right? And when you look at Liferay, we've also seen the opportunity, and we've seen that we have to change as a platform from just being a portal where we aggregate information into something much more. So I want to take the time to present Liferay 7 to you. We are talking about it now as Liferay 7 digital platform, and we've realized that it's no longer just about Liferay the portal, Liferay as a portal server, but it's all of the different technologies that we've developed over the last several years that come together and work together to support digital businesses. So what has Liferay tried to do in the past? In the past, we were all about taking back-end systems and integrating it into Liferay, having a lot of great features like CMS, portal, collaboration, and workflow, and letting you reuse that along with all of your existing business software, and then exposing it mostly to websites. And even though I kind of made fun of Yahoo in the beginning, a lot of old portals were exactly like Yahoo. It was one place for companies to aggregate all of their information, and as a user, after you sign in, you would say, okay, here I am, here's the information, I'm going to go find what I need. And this was fine, let's say, even up until 5 years ago. And we have a lot of successful cases of companies building intranets and websites in this way. But really, in the last 5 years, things have changed so much. So now it's not just enough to integrate and expose and reuse, but we have to do something different. So first of all, now we're not just building websites anymore. We are building also mobile apps, and we're also using digital devices. I don't know how many of you are using an Apple Watch or a Samsung Watch, but I'm sure that when the second version and third version comes, there will be more adoption. But not only that, it's not just the watches, but it's our refrigerators and our cars and everything else. I've seen prototypes of cars where you can start your search for directions on your desktop browser and then send it to your car so that once you get to the car, you're able to more easily get to where you're going. So we're going to see a lot more of these digital interfaces in many different situations. And as developers and as companies, we're going to need to create them. After we've created them, sometimes we are so caught up, especially if we're technical, at building the sites that we throw it out there and then we do nothing with it. In fact, last Saturday, I was having dinner with Pier Paolo, and he told me, oh yeah, we just created the new website for SMC. Look, it's responsive, it's great. Of course, we need to perfect it a little bit more, but there it is. The question is, are they going to leave it there, or is that just a starting point? Because they may find that some of the design decisions that they made for the website are actually the wrong decisions. They need to change some things. They need to move the buttons, or they need to put the hamburger menu on the left. Who knows? And so it's not enough anymore just to create these digital experiences. We need to engage with users, and then we need to understand whether those interfaces are working for them and adjust accordingly. And then the other thing that is fundamentally different from what we had in the days of Yahoo in 1999 is that it's no longer enough to think that there's just going to be one website. We are in a world now where you're going to interact with multiple websites, multiple apps, multiple kiosks. All of you who have come to the event today have already done that. So you probably went to Liferay's online website to sign up for the Italy Symposium. When you checked in, you probably saw our check-in staff using iPads to find your name and then print out your badge. And now you're probably using the Liferay Events app to figure out what's on the agenda and to rate our sessions. So all of these different experiences, if you are here from one of our Italian company customers and we want to know how engaged you are with Liferay, It's not enough just to look at the analytics on Liferay.com. We need to understand what you're doing on Liferay.com, on our mobile apps, on digital devices, and of course, in our in-person interactions. And so Liferay 7 is the beginning of a platform where we want to unify all of these touch points, all of these digital touch points, and understand and have a full view of who you are as a customer. So those are the three things that I want to focus on. I'm going to start with creating digital experiences. And of course, even though it's not only web anymore, web is still a very important part of this. And so we've invested a lot into the web experience for Liferay 7. You're already familiar with Liferay's capability to build dynamic and highly engaging websites like this one, which is one of our customers, Banyan Tree, but we want to go even further than that. So in Liferay 7, one of the first things you'll see is that we've created a number of modern sites with new templates and themes that are going to make it easier for you to understand how Liferay can be used to create the sites that you're familiar with today. So for example, one of the things you see a lot of is that now sites are these long scrolling pages with all of the information on one page. Not only that, but we've actually made a theme specifically for corporations, right? But sometimes the needs are different if you just have a single product and you just want to promote that one product. Well, we've got a template for that as well. Of course, a lot of entertainment and digital media brands are promoting themselves using web as well, and so we've got a number of different templates for that. One thing that's changed in the last 15 years is the way that we read and consume news and information, and so we want to make it easier for Liferay to support digital news sites as well. So you'll see a lot of these kinds of things coming in Liferay 7, but we're not just done there. We've also got a lot for you on the mobile side. So if you've noticed over the last 2 years, Liferay has invested tremendously in mobile. We were probably a little bit late to the game compared to other vendors, but once we kind of had that aha moment of realizing how important mobile was, we've done a lot to catch up. And one of the things we really want to enable you to do is to build great native mobile apps that connect back into your system. See, when we started with this mobile revolution, I think so many of us were so excited, we just wanted to get started building mobile apps right away. And so we downloaded the Apple Software Developer Kit, or we downloaded the Google mobile kit, and we started writing apps, right? It's like, okay, how can I create a login? Okay, great, I've got the login working. Okay, how can I start serving information to people? Okay, oh, I need to translate it. I need Italian and English. Okay, that's another challenge. And after a while, we realized that a lot of the things we were building were things that were already invented. Or we realized that we started writing the same things every time we created a new app. And so one of the things that Liferay has decided that we can do really well is to make it easier to build mobile apps by letting you reuse functionality that you already have. And this should actually sound familiar, right? Because we have tried to do the same thing for websites for many years. Instead of writing an authentication program over and over again, just use the same one that Liferay's given you. Instead of doing localization over and over, use Liferay's localization. And so with our mobile SDK, one of the things we've tried to do is make it easier for you to build mobile apps. But we didn't stop there. So some of our Spanish engineers realized that the mobile SDK is actually really hard to use. And if you're just starting with Liferay, or if the thing you care about most is mobile, and Liferay is just an afterthought, then it's not very easy to use. So we created Liferay Screens, and Liferay Screens is a way to easily consume the mobile SDK and have ready-made interfaces for the most common mobile application functionalities ready to go. So we have things like login, we have things like content management, we have screens for our forms functionality, and all of these things work together so that you can focus on the parts of your mobile app that are key to your business and leave the plumbing to us. We've also got new this year, Liferay Push. It's a notification system that lets you push information from Liferay portal out into your mobile applications. So now your users don't have to update their connection in order to pull new information, but you can actually push it out there. We're also adding geolocation in Liferay 7. So now we are able to use one of the most useful and essential aspects of a mobile device in our apps, but also in our content. So now you can geolocate content in Liferay's content management system. Okay. So we've got web experiences, mobile experiences, and yet there's so much more in Liferay, right? There's the blogs, and there's the web content, there's message boards, and everything else. One of the big areas that we've invested for Liferay 7 is to improve the experience of authoring content. These are some screenshots of our new blogs functionality. You can see that it's been modernized. You can see that we've invested a lot in the user interface. Even from the back of the room, it should be very clear to you from the color scheme and the layout what the most important buttons are. You can probably guess which one is going to be the publish or the save function. You can see the structure of the information, and so the top headline is clearly the most important piece of information here. But we've also gone to great lengths to ensure that all of these things function really well on a mobile device. And in Liferay 6.2, we had responsive design, and so you could easily create websites that would also work on a mobile. But if you ever tried to author content or create new things on the mobile, you may have found that it was actually somewhat difficult. And so in Liferay 7, you can even write blogs from your mobile device. We also have a new HTML editor called Alloy Editor, and it's particularly beautiful. It's the work of our engineers in Spain, including Chema Balsas and Ilyan Pechev, and they realized that the CK editor, which we're all very, very familiar with, is actually so hard to use. And so they didn't replace CK editor, but they created a new interface on top of it that essentially puts editing in the context of the content. And then, so instead of having all of your buttons and things up at the top and your content up here, now the editor comes to you. The editor comes right where the text is, and it helps you to author amazing content. You can even insert photos directly from your laptop camera or your mobile camera. You can do things like add a Twitter link to text. You can also, in Liferay 7, not only work with text, but also work with images. The image editing and management functionality of Liferay has been really, really abominable for so many years, and now we've realized that, and we want to make it a lot easier. So in Liferay 7, you're going to see an integrated image editor that lets you do most of the important functions of image manipulation directly from Liferay portal. Okay, so those are all the things we've invested for Liferay 7 to make it easier to create experiences. Now, we don't want to stop there. We've got our new website, we've got our new mobile app. We want to engage and understand our users. Okay, first of all, so multi-channel campaigns. This is something that my friend Eddie is going to talk about at great length, so I won't go into too much, but one of the exciting things that's coming with Liferay 7 as an evolution of our audience targeting functionality is being able to run marketing campaigns across all channels. You can see here, this is sort of a vision of what we see happening in the future, but this company has a new white paper about retail banking, and it wants to let its audiences know that it's available. And so you can see that it's serving web content to mobile devices and web, but also through push notifications. I mentioned earlier about screens and how it makes it really easy for you to create mobile apps that are native to the device. But now we're evolving it further, and we're also adding the targeting aspect directly into our screens. And so this app, it's called the Westeros Bank app. It kind of showcases all of the different Liferay screens that we have available. Everything you see here is actually created using screens. But if you've been following the demo, the other thing that we're showing is that now you can sign in as different kinds of users and get different content. So the first half of the video was showing a salesperson logging in, and you saw that they had a specific survey. But now this is a marketing user, and we can show them a survey, but if they decide not to do a survey, we can also show them targeted content. And so with this, we want to highlight two major things. First of all, that now with mobile apps and Liferay screens, you can have targeting built right into the app. But the second is that one key difference about Liferay compared to other digital marketing platforms is that we're not just doing content. You can also target the apps. So things like the survey, which was built on Liferay digital dynamic data lists, or the apps that you build in Liferay can all be targeted to the users. So that's going to be really helpful for you to support important business initiatives at your company. And then, of course, it's not just about the targeting, but we want to see how users respond to it. And so one of the big focuses for Liferay 7, which is the beginning of the platform, but we're going to keep releasing new modules, is the reporting and the campaign management. So you will see more of Liferay actually giving you the tools you need to see if your new website or your new app is being effective. Okay. User engagement. So there's engagement and understanding at the high level and across sort of the entire audience, but you also want to engage users at the individual level. And this is a very prominent feature of modern life, which is surveys and forms. Companies are using this all the time to collect information and to understand users. And so we invested a lot to make our forms much, much better. Here you can see a preview of the forms experience on Liferay 7. You can see that it's very intuitive. You, as an end user, as the business person, you don't need to do any coding. You can actually create this form. You can put all the elements together, clicking and dragging and dropping, and it's much, much better than it was in Liferay 6.2. Okay, comments and mentions. So this is just showing some of the detail to which our team has gone to really think about the user experience in Liferay 7. Here you can see not only that we have a new commenting interface for Liferay 7, but now you can actually mention system users throughout the platform. And so if you have, for example, here, there's a thread about a specific technical topic, and you know that somebody in the company is the foremost expert on that topic, you can grab their attention. They're going to get a notification so that they can come and respond to this part of the site. Okay? So we've created websites, we've created mobile apps, we've created digital experiences, we've engaged users, and we've understood that some of the decisions we made were not the best ones. We've adjusted that, right? And finally, we want to unify all of those things across the journey. This is really looking more into the future of Liferay, but this is where we see Liferay 7 going. We want to be one digital platform for an organization, whether it's a company, a nonprofit, a school, or whatever it is. We want to be the single platform that gives you comprehensive understanding of your audiences, but also individual users. And to that end, one of the things that we've invested a lot in, which is actually, it's not that intuitive how this connects, but it's something very technical, which is modularity. And modularity is actually very, very hard to explain. I tried to use pictures to do it, to kind of show that you're using all these little bits and pieces to make something bigger. But what I've realized is it's better to explain it directly. Modularity is a solution to a software problem that all of us face, which is as you grow your software product bigger and bigger, it becomes so complex that it's very hard to manage, right? The orange line is showing a monolithic application, which is just having all of the software as one big piece, and then the green is showing a modular application, and you're showing the cost and the complexity. And you can see that monolithic development is actually more advantageous in the beginning, but as time goes on, it becomes very hard to manage. Now, this is a big trend in the software development world these days, is to go towards modularity and microservices. But Liferay has taken a slightly different approach and philosophy on this. And I was trying to find people who agree with us, because it's always helpful to feel that people are on your side. And I found that Martin Fowler, who is a very kind of well-renowned software architect, has also said something similar to Liferay's approach, which is that it's actually better to start with a monolith and then break out your microservices when it becomes unmanageable. And he said that in his experience of doing many, many software projects, anytime you try to start with microservices directly, it's very, very risky and it has a lot of problems. But when you start with a monolith and take a modular approach, then you can be much more successful. So what has Liferay done? Liferay has basically tried to give you the benefits of modularity without making you pay all of the investment of learning a completely different and new way of building software. So if you look at the very, very high-level architecture, basically with the trendy microservices that people are doing today, people are trying to do a service for everything. They're trying to make the whole system a bunch of services, and then instead of having the complexity in the software, now you've moved the complexity to the environment. There's a new practice in IT called Devops, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. Devops is really about how do developers realize and understand the needs of operational environments as they develop the software so that their services will run under stress, that they're fault tolerant, that there's graceful degradation, and all of these things. All of these complexities that we frankly are not used to dealing with as traditional software developers. And so in Liferay 7, what we've done is we've created an Osgi container, and that manages the complexity of your microservices while still giving you the benefits of having a modular software application. So what does that enable us to do on the user experience front? Well, one of the benefits of modularity is that you can actually be much, much more agile as a software developer. Of course, you can be agile as well on the monolithic side, and Martin Fowler actually talks about this as well. But if you have a modular application, it tends to be easier to be agile, right? So in order to rapidly respond to all of the different opportunities to engage users through digital experiences, you need a modular system. You need to work fast. You need to quickly create new apps and sites as you need them, and Liferay 7 is going to help you do that. Okay, one of the other aspects of unifying across all of these experiences is consistency. And of course, we think of consistency as far as brand and interface, but we also want to have consistent performance expectations. Liferay 7 has been an investment in performance with what we're calling the single-page application framework. What you'll find in Liferay 7 is that all of your existing portlets, all of your existing Liferay sites can now automatically convert to single-page applications, which give you tremendous performance benefits by making fewer web requests and compressing all of the data down into smaller chunks. With single-page applications, you can see, just comparing the performance, how much better it is than your traditional portlet. And so this is going to lead to a much, much more highly performant website that is going to be much more consistent with your users expectations. But the other big investment that we've made has been on the interface side. And if you've seen some of the screenshots that I've shown you of Liferay, you may have noticed that we have a new design language. And that new design language is called Lexicon. So Juan Hidalgo Reina, who is one of our UX guys in Spain, has invested a lot in Lexicon. This is Liferay's approach to having a consistent, easy to understand experience across all of the different Liferay digital experiences that are created. So here you can see several different Liferay assets and the management interfaces for them. And you can see that Lexicon ties them all together and makes them consistent so users know what to expect no matter where they go in the Liferay system. This is a view of documents and media with the new Lexicon language. You can see all of the major functions that the user needs to know about and how they're structured in a very predictable way. But you can also see how that maps directly to the mobile experience. So Lexicon has not only tackled consistency with respect to from web experience to web experience, but also to mobile and to other digital experiences. Okay, finally, and this is really, I think, the most important point after all of that stuff, which is we want to understand our users. Back in 1999, Yahoo didn't really care about the user. Of course, at some point they introduced My Yahoo and logging in and all that stuff, but fundamentally, Yahoo was the same no matter who you were. In 2015, we care very much about who you are, and we want to tailor that experience to you. But in order to do that, we need to understand who you are. So one of the things that Liferay wants to invest in further, starting with Liferay 7, is the concept of the comprehensive user profile. So at Liferay, we use a product called HubSpot, and HubSpot has done a great job of helping us understand visitors to our website. So one of the areas we want to look at is how Liferay can be that one place where everyone comes together, all of the digital experiences come together to help us understand who the user is. We want to unify all of the digital touch points so that, like I mentioned in the beginning, when you visit liferay.com, when you use our app, when you talk to us in person, when you come to our events, all of those things feed into helping us understand who you are, whether you're a developer, a partner, a customer, or an employee. And then finally, we are looking at how we can provide what I call continuity on the user journey. I had a recent experience where I was late for a flight between LA and Ohio with a connection in Chicago. The flight leaving from LA was delayed by about 30 minutes, and so we weren't able to catch our flight in Chicago. And through that experience, of course, the first thing I did when I touched down was to pull out my mobile phone, and I noticed that United's app actually already gave me an alert saying, here are other options for your flight connection to Cleveland. But I actually ended up talking to a service representative, and as soon as I walked up to the service desk and they punched in my information, they saw that I had a delayed flight, and so they gave me all of my options. But I think as we create more and more of these digital touch points, it's going to be a lot more confusing, both for users, but also for companies to understand their relationship with the customer. And so Liferay is looking at how we can be a platform that provides the continuity as you interact with companies across all of these different interfaces. Okay, so what is this ultimately about? Well, I want to bring it back to the Disney experience and the enchanted art. And one thing that struck me about this photo is that ultimately you don't see a lot here about technology, right? But you see very much how the user is responding to that technology and how they're delighting in it. And I think ultimately, if Liferay is successful as a digital platform, and if you are successful as users of that platform in your companies, you will find that your customers, your users, will respond to your technology without even realizing that it's there. and it should almost be a little bit like magic. So that's all I have for this morning. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that last point later this evening. But meanwhile, just thank you again for being here and enjoy the rest of the conference. We have a lot in store, and we're going to go into much more detail than I was able to cover this morning in the later session. So thank you.